Hey warriors. In 217 BC, Rome was on its knees. Hannibal had just wiped out an entire Roman army at Lake Trasimene, and panic spread through the city faster than the news itself. The Senate did something it almost never did. It handed total power to one man, a quiet, unremarkable general named Quintus Fabius Maximus, and told him to fix it. Fabius did something nobody expected. He refused to fight. Every instinct in Rome screamed for revenge, for one big battle to erase the humiliation. Fabius ignored it. He shadowed Hannibal's army for months, harassing supply lines, cutting off stragglers, never once giving Hannibal the head-on clash he wanted. Rome mocked him for it. They gave him a nickname meant as an insult, Cunctator, the delayer. Crowds jeered him in the streets. His own officers accused him of cowardice. He kept going anyway. He wasn't weak. He was doing the only thing that would actually work, and he was strong enough to keep doing it, while an entire city called him a coward. That refusal to bend under pressure, under mockery, under public pressure loud enough to break most people, is what eventually turned the war. Historians still argue over the details. Nobody argues over this. Fabius's stubborn, unglamorous persistence bought Rome the time it needed to survive and eventually win. Heraclitus, writing centuries before Fabius was born, left behind a line that could have been written about him directly. Big results require big ambitions, not loud ones, not popular ones, the kind that refuses to fold when everyone around you is demanding you quit. Willpower is structure. One changes by the hour. The other, built right, doesn't move no matter what's raining down on it, or what anyone is calling you for holding the line. This video won't hand you a burst of hype that fades by tomorrow morning. Hype is cheap. What you're getting instead are 7 operating laws, real, testable, repeatable, used by people who don't fold when things get hard. Not because they're wired differently than you, because they built different systems. Be honest with yourself for a second. It probably wasn't one dramatic moment. It was a slow leak. One skipped day gave permission for a second skipped day, until the thing you cared about quietly died from neglect instead of a clean break. That's how most commitments end. Not with an explosion, with a shrug. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that leak happens and how to seal it before it starts. We'll cover how to make decisions that don't require daily debate, how to start before you feel ready, how to build an environment that fights for you instead of against you, and how to treat difficulty as information instead of a stop sign. Before we go further, like this video, drop a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. This series exists because people ask for it. Don't skip a single part of what's coming. The part you skip is usually the one you needed most. One more thing worth saying before we start. Willpower gets sold to us as a personality trait, something you either got a large helping of at birth or didn't. That framing is convenient for anyone trying to sell you a supplement or a seminar, but it isn't accurate, and it isn't useful. Treat willpower as fixed, and you get an excuse to stop trying the moment it runs thin. Treat it as a skill, trainable, buildable, improvable through specific practice, and you get something to actually do about it. That's the premise behind everything coming next. Not talent, not luck. Practice, applied consistently in ways anyone can learn. Type this in the comments right now, wherever you're watching from, and mean it. I am unbending. Or 1. Decide once, argue never. Most willpower failures aren't failures of strength, they're failures of negotiation. Every day your mind reopens a case that should have been closed permanently, and every day you spend energy relitigating something you already agreed to. That's exhausting. Worse, it's a losing strategy, because your tired, hungry, distracted self at 9 at night is a much weaker debater than your clear-headed self was when you made the commitment. So, here's the fix. And it's almost embarrassingly simple. Decide once. Pick the thing that actually matters to you, not the thing everyone else says should matter, and make one clean, final decision. Not, I'll try. Not, I'll see how I feel. A flat statement, I'm not quitting on this. Say it like a fact, not a hope. Once that decision is made, your feelings lose their voting rights. This is the part people skip. They think willpower means feeling motivated every day. It doesn't. It means the decision was already made on a day when you were motivated, and now you're simply following through on a promise your past self made to your future self. Your mood today is irrelevant. The verdict already came in. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. He wasn't debating the theory of the thing. He was closing the case and acting. That's the difference between a decision and a discussion. Watch what happens the next time your brain tries to renegotiate. It'll say something soft and reasonable sounding. I'll do it tomorrow. Just this once won't matter. I'm too tired tonight. Recognize that voice for what it is, not new information, just an old habit trying to reopen a closed case. You don't need to argue with it. Arguing gives it legitimacy. Just remind yourself flatly, this isn't up for debate anymore. There's a difference between a preference and a decision, and most people never draw that line. A preference bends under pressure. A decision doesn't, because a decision already accounted for pressure. It was made anticipating the days you wouldn't feel like it. If you only follow through when you feel like it, you never actually decided anything. You were just going along with a mood. Think of it like a contract you signed with someone you respect. You wouldn't call them at midnight and say, "Actually, I've changed my mind. Does that work for you?" You'd honor the terms because the terms were already settled. Treat your own commitments with that same weight. You are, after all, the person you'll have to live with longest. If you've ever wondered why some people seem almost boringly consistent, same effort on good days and bad days, this is usually the reason. They stop treating their commitment as something to be reapproved daily. They closed the case. A closed case doesn't need a new verdict every morning. There's a practical way to install this if it doesn't come naturally at first. Write the decision down in one sentence. Somewhere you'll see it again. Not a paragraph of reasoning, not a list of pros and cons you'll reread every time doubt shows up. One flat sentence, the verdict, not the trial. When the old argument tries to resurface, don't reopen the case file. Just point to the verdict and move on with your day. Some people resist this idea because it sounds rigid, almost cold, like you're removing your own agency from the process. It's the opposite. You exercised your agency once, fully, at the moment you made the decision with a clear head. Everything after that is just honoring the choice your clearest self already made. That's not rigidity. That's respect for your own judgment, applied consistently instead of abandoned the moment it becomes inconvenient. Don't just nod along, prove it. Comment this the second you finish reading, "I've decided, it's closed." Law 2. Start ugly, but start. Almost everyone falls into without realizing it, waiting for the right conditions before beginning. The right mood, the right energy, the right amount of time. The problem is, those conditions rarely arrive together, and while you wait for them, the task sits untouched and grows heavier in your mind. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a first move, one small, unimpressive, imperfect first move. Tell yourself something absurdly small. I'll do 3 minutes, even if it's bad. Notice the permission built into that sentence. You're not promising excellence. You're not promising a full session. You're promising 3 minutes and permission to do it badly. That's a bar almost anyone can clear, on almost any day, in almost any mood. What actually happens once people cross that threshold, though? Momentum takes over more often than not. The gym visit you dreaded turns into a full workout once you're already dressed and in the room. The writing session you avoided turns into 2 pages once the first ugly sentence is on the page. The hardest part was never the middle of the task. It was the doorway. Aristotle, thinking about beginnings long before anyone had a word for procrastination, left behind a line that fits here almost too perfectly. Well begun is half done, not fully done, half. He isn't promising the rest gets easy. He's telling you the hardest fraction of the whole task is the part you haven't started yet. A specific kind of dread that builds around unstarted tasks. A low hum of anxiety that follows you through the day, quietly draining energy you could be spending on the task itself. The moment you begin, even badly, that hum usually drops. Not because the task got easier, because you stopped rehearsing the fear of it and started doing it instead. Perfectionism disguises itself as a virtue, but in practice it's one of the most reliable quitting mechanisms available. If the bar for acceptable is set at excellence, most days will fail to clear it, and each failed day chips away at the belief that you're someone who follows through. Lower the bar deliberately. Let day one look embarrassing. An embarrassing day one, repeated consistently, will outperform a flawless day one that never gets a day two. This doesn't mean lowering your standards forever. It means separating starting standards from finishing standards. You're allowed to start messy and improve as you go. What you're not allowed to do is let the fear of a messy start keep you from starting at all. Think of a heavy door on rusted hinges. The hardest part of moving it isn't sustaining the push. It's breaking the resistance that's built up from sitting still too long. Once the door is moving, even slightly, it takes far less force to keep it going than it took to start it. Your mind works on a similar hinge. The resistance you feel isn't a permanent property of the task. It's mostly a property of stillness. Break the stillness, and the resistance drops fast, usually faster than you expect. This is also why waiting for motivation backfires so often. Motivation in most cases doesn't arrive before action. It arrives because of action. You don't feel like running, so you run for 3 minutes, and somewhere in those 3 minutes, something shifts. The body warms up. The mind quiets its objections. What looked like an obstacle from the couch looks manageable once you're already inside it. Next time you feel that familiar resistance building before a task, don't try to talk yourself into feeling ready. You're rarely going to feel fully ready for anything ever. Instead, negotiate down to something so small it stops feeling like a decision and starts feeling like an accident you can't help but begin. Prove it before you close this tab. Comment: I'm starting ugly. Law 3. Make quitting harder than continuing. People fight their willpower battles in the wrong location. They try to win the fight entirely inside their own head, moment by moment, relying on raw discipline to beat back distraction and temptation every time. That's an exhausting way to live, and it's also unnecessary because a huge portion of that battle can be won in advance, before the moment of temptation even arrives. Set your environment up so the easy path and the right path are the same path. Put your shoes by the door the night before, laces loosened, ready to step into. Leave your notebook open on the desk instead of closed in a drawer. Log into your work account before you go to sleep, so the barrier of opening it isn't waiting for you in the morning. Meanwhile, make the distractions annoying to reach. Log out of the apps that eat your time. Move the phone to another room. Delete the shortcut that makes mindless scrolling 1 tap away instead of 3. This isn't about having more willpower. It's about needing less of it, because the environment is doing part of the work for you. Zeno of Citium, the founder of the entire Stoic school, left behind a much quieter observation than his students are usually remembered for. Well-being is realized by small steps, but is truly no small thing. He wasn't talking about grand willpower battles. He was talking about the accumulation of small, deliberate arrangements, exactly the kind you're making when you move your shoes by the door. Consider 2 people trying to build the same habit. One relies purely on internal resolve, battling temptation fresh each time it appears, treating every day like a new test of character. The other spends 10 minutes the night before removing friction from the good behavior and adding friction to the bad one. Over a month, these two people aren't competing on equal footing. The second person built a system. The first is relying entirely on a resource, willpower, that's known to fluctuate with sleep, stress, and blood sugar. Systems beat willpower on a long enough timeline almost every time. This matters because it contradicts the popular image of discipline as some heroic, constant act of resistance. In reality, a lot of what looks like discipline from the outside is actually design. The person who never seems tempted by junk food often just doesn't keep it in the house. The person who always exercises in the morning often laid their clothes out the night before, removing the 10 seconds of decision-making that would have otherwise given their tired brain a chance to negotiate. Willpower, treated this way, stops being a personality trait you either have or lack. It becomes something closer to architecture, something you build, brick by brick, decision by decision, until the structure itself is doing more of the holding than you are. There's a related idea worth naming here, the idea of friction. Every action you want to encourage should have less friction attached to it. Every action you want to discourage should have more. This sounds almost too simple to matter, but plain observation of your own behavior tells a different story. People eat more fruit when it's sitting visibly on the counter and less when it's buried in a drawer inside the fridge. People check their phones less when the phone is in another room, not because their self-control improved, but because the physical distance itself became the barrier willpower used to have to provide alone. Apply that same logic to whatever you're building. Where can you remove one extra step between yourself and the good behavior? Where can you add one extra step between yourself and the behavior that pulls you off course? These are usually small, almost boring changes: moving a charger, changing an app's location on your home screen, setting out clothes the night before. Boring, yes. But boring changes, stacked and repeated, are exactly what separates people who maintain hard habits from people who rely purely on grit and eventually run out of it. Tell me honestly in the comments what's sitting closest to your hand right now, then add, "I'm building the system." Law 4. Treat pain like training, not a warning. There's a moment almost everyone recognizes, the exact point during a difficult task where discomfort spikes and the brain sends a clear, urgent signal: stop. Most people obey that signal instantly and without question, treating it as a red flag, a sign that something has gone wrong and needs to end immediately. But that signal isn't always telling the truth. Sometimes discomfort just means this is working. When it gets tough, don't automatically hear stop. Train yourself to hear something else entirely. This is the rep that counts. Say it out loud if that helps make it real. This is where I get stronger. The exact moment you want to quit, that specific, uncomfortable, screaming for relief moment, is very often the moment your actual training begins. Everything before it was just warm-up. This idea isn't new, and it isn't soft self-help language dressed up to sound tough. Athletes have known this for generations. The last few reps of a set, the ones that burn and shake, do more for muscle growth than the first 10 combined. The mind works on a strikingly similar principle. Comfortable effort barely moves you. Effort at the edge of your capacity, the kind that makes quitting feel not just tempting but reasonable, is exactly the kind that reshapes you. Seneca wrote to a friend struggling with exactly this kind of moment, and his answer still holds up. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Not difficulties are dangerous, not difficulties mean something's wrong. Difficulties, in his framing, are the mechanism of getting stronger. The same way lifting something heavy is the mechanism, not a malfunction, of building muscle. What makes this law so useful in practice? Pain, interpreted as a warning, produces retreat. Pain, interpreted as information, as feedback that you've reached your current edge, produces growth. Same physical sensation. completely different outcome depending entirely on the story you tell yourself in that split second. That doesn't mean every kind of pain should be pushed through blindly. There's a difference between the burn of genuine effort and the sharp signal of real injury or harm, and learning to tell them apart matters. But most people quit long before they reach that second category. Most quitting happens at the first sign of ordinary discomfort, the kind that's uncomfortable precisely because it's productive, not because it's dangerous. There's a mental habit worth practicing here, something you can rehearse before you even need it. When you notice discomfort rising during effort, instead of asking, "How do I make this stop?" try asking, "What is this discomfort actually telling me?" 9 times out of 10, the honest answer is something like this: you're pushing past where you usually stop, and that's uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar, not because it's harmful. That single reframe tends to drain a surprising amount of the urgency out of the urge to quit. It also helps to remember that the discomfort you're feeling right now has almost certainly been felt and pushed through by someone else attempting something equally hard. You're not encountering some unique, unbearable resistance reserved specifically for you. You're encountering the ordinary cost of doing something that matters. Everyone who's ever built anything worth building has sat exactly where you're sitting, in that same uncomfortable middle, deciding whether to stop or continue. What separates the ones who finished from the ones who didn't usually isn't raw talent. It's the decision, made repeatedly, to reinterpret that discomfort as part of the process instead of a sign to abandon it. If you've ever pushed through a moment that screamed at you to stop, I want to hear it. Comment, "This is my rep." Law 5. Keep score of the times you didn't quit. A quiet, corrosive belief that builds in the back of many people's minds over years of half-finished attempts. I always quit eventually. It rarely gets said out loud. It just sits there, shaping decisions before they're even made, whispering that this new attempt will probably end the same way the last 10 did. The way to dismantle that belief isn't with more motivation, it's with evidence. Start keeping a running record, not of goals, not of outcomes, but specifically of the moments you didn't quit. Write them down as they happen, in plain, unremarkable language. Ran even though I was tired. Wrote 200 words when I felt like garbage. Made the call even though I was scared. Nothing dramatic, just proof, collected one small entry at a time. That list becomes something the inner critic can't easily argue with. It's one thing for a voice in your head to claim you always quit as an abstract, sweeping accusation. It's another thing entirely to hold a written record showing 11 separate days where that exact claim turned out to be false. Facts are harder to dismiss than feelings, and this list, however small it looks at first, is a growing stack of facts. Confucius, teaching students who worried constantly about how far behind they were, offered something that fits this exact situation. It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. The list you're keeping isn't measuring speed, it's measuring the one thing that actually predicts whether you finish, whether you kept going at all. People underestimate how much self-trust affects performance under pressure. If you don't believe you're someone who follows through, every hard moment becomes a referendum on your entire identity, and that's a heavy weight to carry into a simple daily task. But if you've got a written list proving you've pushed through discomfort before, multiple times, in multiple situations, the next hard moment gets smaller. It's not, "Will I be someone who follows through?" It's, "I already am. Here's the proof." This list doesn't need to be long to be effective. Even 5 entries, honestly recorded, start shifting the internal narrative. The goal isn't volume, it's visibility. Making the invisible pattern of your own persistence something you can actually see rather than something you have to take on faith. An interesting reason this works better than simply trying to think positive about your own consistency. Vague positivity is easy for a doubting mind to dismiss because it isn't anchored to anything concrete. But a dated, specific entry, a real Tuesday where you actually push through actual resistance, is much harder to argue away, because it isn't a feeling you're trying to manufacture, it's a fact you're retrieving. The brain treats retrieved facts very differently than it treats generated feelings, and this list gives it facts to retrieve exactly when it needs them most. Over time, something else happens too, something people rarely expect going into this. The list stops being just a motivational tool and starts becoming a kind of mirror, an honest, cumulative record of who you've actually been, not who you fear you are or who you hope you'll become. Read back through a few months of entries and you'll often find a person who showed up more than the inner critic gave them credit for. Keep it somewhere you'll actually look at again, a notes app, a notebook by your bed, wherever you'll return to it on a rough day, because rough days are exactly when this list earns its value. On the days you feel strong, you don't need convincing. On the days you don't, this becomes the argument that wins. Start your list right now in the comments. Write one thing you didn't quit on this week, then add, "I'm keeping the record." Law 6. Have a backup plan that isn't quitting. Life doesn't pause for your goals. Somewhere in the middle of every serious commitment, something will interrupt it. Illness, exhaustion, a family emergency, a day that simply falls apart despite your best planning. Most people treat these interruptions as forced exits, as if the only two options are full execution or complete abandonment. That's a false choice, and it's quietly responsible for more abandoned goals than almost any other single factor. The rule that fixes this is simple to state and surprisingly hard to practice. When life hits, downgrade the task, not the commitment. Can't do the full workout today, do 5 minutes. Can't write a full page, write one sentence. The specific output shrinks, the underlying promise stays intact. This distinction matters enormously because a shrunk task still counts as continuation, while a skipped task, even one skipped for a completely legitimate reason, starts to feel like an ending, and endings are hard to walk back from. What this law actually protects isn't the 5 minutes or the one sentence themselves. 5 minutes of exercise won't transform your body, and one sentence won't finish your book. What it protects is the identity, the unbroken thread of, "I'm someone who shows up," even on a day when showing up looks almost nothing like your normal effort. Epictetus put this exact idea into a single sharp line. Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. A cancelled day doesn't create weakness in you. It just shows you honestly whether your commitment was ever built to bend or only ever built to look strong when nothing was pushing against it. The Stoics spoke often about bending without breaking, adjusting the method while holding the goal fixed. That's the posture this law asks you to adopt. Not rigid, unmovable intensity every day. That's brittle, and brittle things snap under enough pressure. Something closer to a tree in wind, bending low without uprooting. Set the rule ahead of time before a hard day arrives, because in the moment itself, willpower is already stretched thin and decision-making gets clouded. Decide in advance, no matter what happens, I never go to zero. Not, I'll try to keep going. A clear standing order agreed to on a calm day that applies automatically on the chaotic ones. This also solves a psychological trap that catches a lot of people, the all-or-nothing spiral. Miss one day completely, and it's suddenly much easier to miss a second than a third, because the streak already feels broken and the motivation to start over hasn't kicked in yet. But if the standard was never perfect execution, and was instead something, always something, there's no broken streak to mourn. Just a smaller entry in an unbroken chain. You bend, you don't break. That's the whole law, worth remembering on the exact days you'll need it most. It helps to actually decide, in advance, what your minimum version looks like for each thing you're committed to. Don't leave it to be improvised in the moment, because improvisation under stress tends to default to zero. It's the easiest option, and stressed minds gravitate toward easy. Instead, write it down now while you're calm. If the day falls apart, the workout becomes 5 minutes. The writing becomes 1 sentence. The outreach becomes 1 message instead of 10. Having that minimum already defined removes an entire layer of decision-making from a day when decision-making is already in short supply. This law also quietly protects something bigger than any single habit. It protects your relationship with your own word. Every time you honor a commitment, even in its smallest possible form, you're reinforcing the idea that your promises to yourself mean something. Every time you let a hard day become a skipped day, you're teaching yourself the opposite lesson, whether you intend to or not. The stakes here aren't really about the workout or the page count. They're about whether your own word is something you can actually rely on, especially when it's inconvenient to keep it. Comment this below and actually mean it. I never go to zero. Law 7. Remember who you're becoming. Something almost nobody tells you about consistency. The task in front of you is rarely the actual point. The workout isn't really about today's muscle. The page isn't really about today's word count. Every time you stick with something difficult, you're doing something much bigger than completing a task. You're casting a vote for the kind of person you're becoming, one small action at a time. That reframe changes everything about how a hard moment feels. Ask yourself directly, especially on the days it's tempting to fold, what kind of person do I want to be? Not vaguely, specifically. Someone who follows through even when it's inconvenient. Someone whose word, even the word given privately to themselves, actually means something. Once you've named that person clearly, the next move is simple, if not easy. Act like that person today, right now, even before you feel like you've fully become them. A lot of people get the order backwards. They wait to feel like a disciplined person before acting like one, as if identity comes first and behavior follows. It's almost always the reverse. Behavior, repeated, builds identity. You don't think your way into becoming consistent, you act your way into it, one uncomfortable choice at a time, until the choice stops requiring conscious effort and starts feeling like simply who you are. Musonius Rufus, one of the lesser-known Stoic teachers but arguably one of the sharpest, left behind a line that captures exactly why this last law matters. If you accomplish something good with hard work, the labor passes quickly, but the good endures. If you do something shameful for the sake of pleasure, the pleasure passes quickly, but the shame endures. He's not talking about single moments. He's talking about what outlasts them, and which version of that trade you're making every time you choose comfort over the harder, better path. This is also why the earlier laws in this video matter as more than individual tactics. Deciding once, starting ugly, engineering your environment, treating pain as training, keeping a record, having a backup plan that isn't quitting, each one is a single deposit. None of them, alone, transforms a life overnight. Together, compounded over months and years, they build the exact kind of person who doesn't fold under pressure because folding stopped being their default response a long time ago. You are, in a very real sense, being built right now, today, in this moment, by whatever you choose to do next. Not by some future version of yourself who magically has it together. By this version, the tired one. The one who doesn't feel like it. That's the version whose choices actually count, because that's the version making them in real time. Ask the question again, one more time, and let it settle. What kind of person do I want to be? Then go be that person, starting with whatever's next on your list today. There's a reason this final law was saved for last, rather than placed at the front of the video. The first 6 laws are tools, practical, specific, usable today. But tools, without a reason to pick them up, tend to gather dust in a drawer somewhere. This law is the reason. It's the answer to the quiet question that shows up on the hardest days. Why does any of this even matter? It matters because every hard choice, repeated, is quietly deciding who shows up in every future version of your life, the one facing bigger obstacles, harder decisions, higher stakes than today's small effort. You're not just training for the task in front of you, you're training the person who'll eventually have to handle everything that hasn't happened yet. That thought alone should change how today feels. This isn't just a workout, a page, a phone call, a hard conversation. It's a rehearsal for the person you're going to need to be later, whether you're ready for that or not. Last one, and this is the one that matters most. Comment: I'm becoming, not waiting. 7 laws. One thread running through every one of them. Willpower isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a structure you build, decision by decision, rep by rep, on days that feel good and on days that feel like everything is working against you. Decide once, so you stop negotiating daily. Start ugly, so the doorway stops looking impossible. Build an environment that fights for you. Treat pain as the signal that real training has begun. Keep a record that proves your own persistence back to you. Have a plan that shrinks the task without shrinking the promise. And remember, always, that the person you're becoming is built by what you do today, not by what you intend to do someday. None of this requires perfection. It requires return. Showing up again and again, especially on the days it would be easier not to. Somewhere out there, someone needed exactly this video today, maybe standing at the edge of quitting something that actually matters to them. If that's you, or if you know someone in that exact spot, this is the moment to act on it, not scroll past it. Like this video if any of these 7 laws hit home. Drop a comment with whichever affirmation meant the most to you. Share this with the one person you know who's fighting to not quit right now. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. There's more built exactly for moments like this one, waiting for you. Steel isn't forged by comfort. It's forged by pressure, held under again and again, until it stops bending and starts holding its shape, no matter what leans against it. Go build yours.